Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Relatable Radio Hour with me, Dr. Green. Thank you so much for joining again. I must be doing something okay if you all are coming back, so I appreciate you coming back. Today, we have another great topic and another great guest to bring into the fold. We're going to talk about an age old discussion that's been going around for quite some time. I've heard some things about it just being in the life coaching world, and I've also just heard it just in education and other things that I do. But we're going to talk about tonight the discussion and the difference, or maybe the differences, in being disciplined and having motivation. So, discipline versus motivation. And as I was thinking about this topic, there was one person that I know I had to bring to the fold because I know that he has dealt with both of these primarily in the space that he's in, the spaces I should say, because he's multifaceted in a lot of different things. And I want to welcome to you all tonight a great frat brother of mine. I'm bringing another brother of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity into the space, another great brother, brother William Wade, who is a Mississippi State trooper and also a professional bodybuilder. William, thank you so much for coming, man. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm doing good.
Glad to have you here, man. So again, I've known you, another person that I've known since the second grade. So that just kind of shows you just how, I don't know, small circle I am and
Yeah.
people that I'm with. Because I was telling Johnny that a few weeks ago, and I also said that to DJ Vision and Joe Hardy, Joe Handy, excuse me, Joe Handy a few weeks ago. So, William, I've known you for a long time. Let's have you just introduce yourself to the audience, tell them about yourself and what's gotten you here today.
Okay, well, I'm native of Jackson, Mississippi, born and raised. Went to Callaway High School, graduated from there, went to Jackson State. I marched in the Sonic Boom, one of the most prestige bands there is, the most prestige band. Once I graduated college, I went into law enforcement. Went with Jackson Police Department. I was with them for about 18 years. Um, 18-year stint with them, and I decided to go elsewhere, and I ended up with Mississippi Highway Patrol, and I've been with them for the last 2 years.
That's awesome. And of course, we got to talk about the bodybuilding that you got intersected with
Yeah,
at some point in that time frame too.
yeah. Well, somewhere along those lines, I started working out. I was introduced to bodybuilding, I would say about 2014, 2017, somewhere in between there. And I was a skinny kid growing up, probably weighed like a buck 20 soaking wet, and I just fell in love with lifting weights and just watching my body change. I actually in high school, I know you probably remember, uh, people who know me. I used to carry weights in my book bag instead of carrying books, just to try to, get stronger, get bigger. So, but I became a professional bodybuilder in 2019, I believe, 2019, 2020, somewhere along in there. And I've been doing it ever since. So it's been roughly about maybe almost 8 7 8 years that I've been actually into the fitness world.
Yeah, and I forgot all about the weights in the book bag thing.
Yeah,
So when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing. I remember that.
yeah,
But I mean, you truly were the example of somebody that like when you had your mind made up on something and you were going to learn more about it and just kind of blossom into that space, you
right,
definitely did that. So
right.
hats off to you again for just wanting to get into that space and then just doing so well in that capacity. So I'm really proud of you about that, man. That's really
Appreciate it.
great.
Thank you. Thank you.
So so if you could like you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what was your engagement? Like what made you so intrigued in the bodybuilding aspect, but also in the law enforcement? Because I know that they're kind of related because I know in the law enforcement you got to be really healthy and be really fit in order to do some of the things that you all do.
Right, right,
But of course, in the bodybuilding space, you're having to do so much, to have the certain look and the physique and things of that nature. But what intrigued you about both of those things?
Well, in college, my my major was my well, I started off with a major in social work. So I always had a niche for like caring for people or being like a people person or just helping other people. So I think around 2004, I had a friend from Callaway who was actually an officer with JPD, and I did a ride along with him, and he just took me around the city, showed me some things, and that kind of intrigued me on being a police officer. With the bodybuilding aspect, honestly, like I said before, I was always a skinny kid. I mean, just sticks and bones, just growing up. And no matter what I did, I just stayed the same. I could eat whatever I wanted to eat, didn't gain any weight. And after a while, I'm not gonna say I was necessarily teased about it, but it was more of a oh, here's go. That was a stigmatism with me, like that's a skinny kid will. So it just made me want to change my lifestyle, change my eating habits, just overall just change. So and I
Mm-hmm.
started that. I was matter of fact, I was at a Jackson State football game when I was approached by just this random guy, and he asked me,
Mm-hmm.
"Did I ever think about bodybuilding?" I was like, "No." And this was in 2014, and actually, he took me under his wing, took me to the gym, showed me how to lift weights, and pretty much put me on like a diet plan. And I just kind of stuck with it over the years, and I just would see my body change, and it just motivated me to keep pushing and go to the next level. So,
I can imagine seeing the change because it's a difference when you can actually see the physical change in something. It keeps you wanting to go to those different levels. So I
right.
can imagine seeing the change in yourself was really something that gravitated you to continue going into that capacity. And I honestly didn't know the story about you getting into law enforcement from joining somebody on a ride along. I had no
Yeah,
idea that that was the thing that started you on it.
yeah, it was. It was.
So you've been in it for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
you've had a great deal in both law enforcement and, of course, in the bodybuilding space. So I'm wondering, and I guess this is more so with the fitness and things that you do in that regard because you're a trainer and you do a multitude of things in that capacity. When it comes to like clients or people that you come in contact with, and it comes to that thing of discipline and motivation.
Right.
What has been your experience with that? Like, how have people talked about those two entities, and how have you, shared your 2 cents on it?
Well, in a way, discipline and motivation, they can go hand in hand, but they are two totally different things. With discipline is more you have to sacrifice a lot. And like just going back to my background from bodybuilding, doing bodybuilding shows and
Mm-hmm.
through the police academies and
Mm-hmm.
the highway patrol school, which is I'm gonna say is like one of the top, the hardest schools to go through in the nation. Like, but I've always been that type of guy. Like, I was never gonna take no for an answer. I was always gonna try to strive to whatever I wanted to do. I was gonna set my mind to do it, whether I had failures or setbacks or anything like that. I wasn't gonna give up on it. But going back to the discipline aspect, I think discipline is more you have to sacrifice a lot. Like you have to sacrifice friends, family, um, lifestyle, everything you have to do because if you're not disciplined and you have a goal that you're trying to reach, it's easy to let those things distract you. And I'm not gonna say it's always a perfect solution for it, but I sacrificed a lot, even like with my family, with my friends, you guys, of course. But sometimes you have to sit down and when you want something that bad, you have to sit down to those around you in your circle and let them know that, hey, this is a goal that I'm trying to achieve. And it's not gonna be easy. There's gonna be nights where I don't want to talk. There's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
times when I don't want to hang out, or there's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be trips I don't want to go on, or
Mm-hmm.
things that I can't eat. So that's where that discipline comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Now on the motivation part of it, I say once you get disciplined to achieve a goal that you have, some days you're motivated to continue to do that, some days you're not. So that's where the discipline comes in, as far as, just say for instance, if I'm in the gym and I'm just feeling like, man, I don't want to do this, I'm feeling bad, I'm feeling down. That's where the discipline comes in, because I'm not motivated to be there, right? So I don't have any motivation. Music can't motivate me, sounds can't motivate me. I'm in one of those spaces. You have to be disciplined. That's where the discipline comes in, as you know that if I do this, the end goal is going to be success. So therefore, that discipline takes over that motivation. You just push through.
So, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I think you said it perfectly when you said that discipline requires a lot of sacrifice.
Yes.
And, there are going to be some times that you don't really feel like doing something, but
Mhm.
the discipline takes over because you know the end goal is going to be towards something that you want to get. So I completely agree with that. When you've dealt with your clients who have been stuck in a rut of thinking that they have to be motivated though
Mhm.
in order to do something, what type of things have you told them to get out of that mentality?
Well, what, to get them out of trying to be motivated?
Yeah, because
Well,
a lot of people rest on that whole, oh, I wasn't motivated. I didn't feel like doing it. I wasn't inspired to do it. But you have to be able to push past that. So what have you said to people who have said that to you?
okay, so dealing with clients and everything, a lot of times that's why people come to personal trainers, because they're not motivated. They can't do that on their own.
Right.
So me as a trainer, I have to motivate, I have to encourage them, lift them up, give them words of encouragement to keep them going. And I mean, granted, it takes 21 days for the body to see a change. So I just keep assuring them that if you just stick with it, stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you make it from the day, move on to the next day. You've already conquered, this is behind you. You've already conquer that rough patch. Let's move on to the next day. So we're taking steps day by day to actually get to a goal that you're trying to achieve. And of course, there's some days that I don't want to be there, or some days that I feel like, oh man, I don't want to get out of bed. But
Right.
showing them that I'm being there,
Right.
say if their appointment is at 5 and I'm there at 4:30. I'm sorry, their appointment is at 6 and I'm there at 4:30 waiting on them. We
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, well, I can't let him down because he's there waiting on me. He's going to encourage me. And sometimes you as a person not wanting to let someone down is motivation.
Mm-hmm.
So it all that plays hand in hand.
Oh, it sure does. And what I love that you just said is essentially you're that person's accountability partner.
You're right, exactly. Yeah,
So when they are low in whatever they're in, you can be seen as that person that's holding them accountable and showing them that you are just as dedicated, so that they can feed off of what you are providing, and then they can in a turn become a better person.
exactly. You always have to have positive energy, no matter how you feel. And that's
Hmm.
like my like Doc, that's like my whole day. Like me as being a law enforcement officer, as going to the gym, even with my kids, I have to motivate all day long, because let's go to the law enforcement aspect. I
Hmm.
could pull someone over, they could be having a bad day. And then me pulling them over, writing them a ticket for speeding, hey, that can make their day even worse. So I
Hmm.
read body language. I'm very good at I think God gave me that spirit of discernment. So I can read body language, I just feel I can read someone's spirit. And if I know they're having a bad day, just me encouraging them or not writing them that ticket, guess what? That little step, that little piece that I intertwine in their life just made their day a little bit better. You see what I'm saying? So now they're going on is like, okay, well, my day can get better. This guy didn't write me a ticket. He was motivated. He wasn't a a butthole with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and going to the gym, like I told you before, just motivating that person that does not want to be there. Hey, you looking good? Hey,
Mm-hmm.
shed a few pounds. Hey, let's go ahead and get it. Let's go. Let's get it today. Come home
Mm-hmm.
with my kids and my girls have a bad day. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. I had a bad day. Hey, well, how can we make this better?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just your words of encouragement some days can change someone's uh whole, I guess the word I'm trying to say, just whole feel
Mm-hmm.
feel of life for
Mm-hmm.
that day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. So it's almost like you as, a law enforcer, um, trainer, you're using motivation as like a tool. It's like a tool. It's like a tool on your belt.
it
It's
is.
kind of,
It
it's
is.
kind of what you use hand in hand with what you stand for.
Right. Like me, I can't have bad days
Right.
on the outside. On the
Right.
inside, I could be having a terrible day.
Mm-hmm.
But me having that position of authority on people,
Mm-hmm.
I can't take that out on them. So I just have to smile, deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
and just be a motivator to other people all the
Right.
time. So
Right. And that's a heavy thing to take on. And I'm speaking from experience with you as well, just as being a life coach, because sometimes it's rough trying to encourage people and always having to stay a
it
certain
is.
way so that they can get the change that they're looking for. So I
Exactly.
completely understand that.
Right.
So I'm loving where you're going with just talking about this in the first place. So thank you for again just sharing your nuggets on this. But how have you seen the effects of discipline and motivation paying off for you on your journey?
Uh, so we'll start back as far as go back as far as high school. Okay, so I mean, we marched in the band together. You know how much discipline that would take,
Mhm.
as far as band practices, trying to juggle schoolwork,
Mhm.
a job, being in the band. So it was, and I think that's where my first, well, of course, discipline started at home with my
Mhm.
parents, but as far as getting out on my own, I think that was probably my first time that I've ever uh, encountered where I had to be disciplined. And so it like I always go back to stepping stone. That well, even in middle school we were in a band, but that stepping stone from middle school to being at high school to college of man, you just wouldn't believe the discipline we had to put in to be in
Mhm.
the band at Jackson State. Man, it was sometimes a whole job, 8 hours out there on the field, just going after drill after drill after because it's paramilitary, so
Mhm.
it's just it's just instilled in you. Then you trying to juggle schoolwork, of course, college hours and family and friends, and it's a lot. So I think my discipline started there, and as far as going on into my adulthood as being a police officer, going, I think back then the police academy was probably like 16 weeks, and I was 21 years old, and man, just taking me out of my norm, taking me
Mhm.
away from my family,
Mhm.
having someone yell at you and tell you what to do, when to eat, when to sleep. Um, there was a lot of days I wasn't motivated, but when they put that fire under you, you get motivated. And you have to be disciplined about it.
Right.
And I try to spew that out on uh, the younger the younger generation of guys who are coming up in the ranks from in law enforcement, of how, of course, all the things that was going on in the news about the disconnect we had between citizens and law enforcement.
Mhm.
It's the way you treat people. I used to always,
Mhm.
because I was a forgot to mention I was a supervisor on the SWAT team, on the bomb
Mhm.
team. All I forgot to
Absolutely.
mention all that, but like
Yeah.
I wear a lot of hats, and so you have to have discipline for that. But going back to, I used to tell my guys, you have to treat that CEO you have to treat that janitor just like a CEO. If that janitor doesn't deserve any disrespect as much as a CEO of $1 billion company, you treat them the same, and that's how you make it uh, in this job. Like you have to be considerate and care for people. But just when we were talking about discipline, uh, just spewing that out to those young guys who didn't get it because they were looking at it as
Mm,
a job and not a career.
right.
You know, this is something that you hold someone's life in your hand. The power that you have of being a police officer, you have to make sound decisions. We're like mothers,
Mm,
fathers, lawyers, judges, everything you have to make in a split second. That's a lot of power to have for somebody. Now you can't go into a job like this where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna be all here willy-nilly and just free will. You have to have some type of discipline for it. And as much as the police academy tries to instill that in you, you can't get enough of all of that in the academy. It has to be like some job on training for that. So, but yeah, that's one of the avenues that I took of
mm-hmm,
being disciplined
mm-hmm.
in law enforcement, and then coming from the highway patrol. Man, it was, dude. I tell you, I'm not gonna lie. It was days in there where I questioned myself, like, why am I here? So
Mm,
my backstory, my backstory. So, like I said, I was at JPD for 18 years. That was my comfort zone. That was that's all I knew. I was there
right.
from when I was 21 until I was 38 years old. Um, that's all I knew. That's how I provided for my family, like insurance, checks, bills, everything. I provided for my family through JPD. And I just prayed to God. I've always wanted to be a highway patrolman, but first time I applied, I didn't get in. Second time I applied, I cracked my ankle. Um, so it was no way I was gonna get through that training. And this last time in 2022, I applied again. Well, they had another class, and I just prayed to God. I said, God, if this is what you have for me, show me a sign that this is what you want me to do. And I always, like a couple of times, I tried to get out of law enforcement. I applied to be a physical therapist, took classes on that, but I never got accepted to the school I was trying to get in. So that was another sign, like, well, maybe God wants me to be here. Um, so 2022, I prayed. I said, well, God, I've been here for this long. This is gonna be. I'm stepping out on faith. I'm giving it to you to let me know what you want me to do. And I kid you not, Doc, when I prayed that, because the deadline was coming up to turn the apps in, and I just pondered on it and pondered on it. No lie, I said, God, give me a sign of just what you want me to do. I was driving in the car. It wasn't a highway patrol car. I don't know what it was, like a cleaning company or something, but a truck passed by me and it had the acronym MHP on it. I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
give me another one if that one was for me. But so I took that as that was my sign.
Absolutely,
So
man.
going into that, I knew it was gonna be tough. And me being older, going in there trying to run a gun with those younger guys, 20 years old, 21 years old, I knew it was gonna be a challenge. But we're going back to discipline. That mentality that I had, like the mentality of grinding in the gym,
Mm,
getting up at 5 o'clock every morning, being a family man, getting my girls ready for school, all that is discipline. And I knew that. And another thing, we're going to motivation.
hmm.
If I quit, what would my girls think? I wasn't
Right.
worried about anybody else. Like, man, daddy couldn't take that. Man, daddy
Right.
a beast. They think daddy a beast. So I can't let them show,
Hmm. Right.
it's nothing wrong with failure, but I wasn't gonna let that stop me. But
Hmm.
like I say, that was one of the toughest um things that I've been through in my life. One of them.
Hmm.
And man, I actually tore both of my calf muscles in there. And so it was either they were like, you go home or you push through the pain. So I wrapped them up tight as I could. I ended up developing like this blood. It was some kind of blood, not procedure, but problem I had because I wrapped them up so tight and blood couldn't flow to them. So I ended up having
Okay.
to go to the hospital while I was in there. But I was like, Lord, this is for me. This is my time. I cannot quit. If you, I know you got me. And so, man, I just pushed through. I pushed through every day with all the running, the pain that they put us through. It was, man, it was tough. It was, and there's one thing they did that was in there was called water survival. And of course, I can't swim, so they took us to this 12 uh 12-foot deep Olympic pool and go to the other side. To this day, they pushed me in. I don't know how I made it to the other side without drowning. Of course, they gave us tips of how to get across and do
Yeah.
this, but me being terrified of water in 12 feet, man, come on. Now I could do 6 and under, but 12, but I prayed again. Discipline, that's
Wow.
where it comes in with prayer, with being disciplined. You know,
Hmm.
it was, man, it was an experience, but all that tied into discipline with me. I wasn't motivated at all. Not one day I was motivated in there
Hmm.
because they took me away from my family. They took me away, and we didn't go home. So I had to stay there. I think we were there 14, 15 weeks. And for the first 5 weeks, I didn't see my family. I couldn't talk to my girl. I couldn't talk to my wife. I couldn't talk to my mom. Nobody. It was all by the faith of God and just being disciplined. Because, of course, like I said, I wasn't motivated, but I
Right.
knew I had to do it. So that's the difference where it comes in from. I mean, the difference when it comes from discipline and motivation. You know you have to do something, so the discipline kicks in. So, but uh yeah, that's my stint for like on discipline in the law enforcement area. So,
So resoundingly from that alone, I'm hearing just the the ability to have the discipline at an earlier stage and how it just trickled over into so many things, because I know that being in law enforcement and especially being in bodybuilding and being a trainer, you got to have discipline in
mhm.
order to do all those things. I've seen him, ladies and gentlemen, bring eggs to my house when he was needing
Yeah,
to eat. And we were eating something else. We weren't eating that.
yeah,
We were eating
yeah,
something completely different. But you being disciplined, bringing your own food to parties and other things,
yeah.
that trickles from that discipline. And then
Right.
to know that you would have to use that very same mentality that you developed in those different areas
Yeah,
to this state trooper academy, and how it overcame all of it. Because I also know and have known for a while that you do not like swimming. You didn't like
no,
anything dealing with water.
no,
And you say
no.
it was 12, like you were in a 12
An Olympic style pool.
feet
Yes,
pool. Oh
yes,
my
yes,
gosh, William.
yes, yes.
Can you remember how you got like in that, or got across it?
How I got out? I don't, man. Like I say, I honestly don't remember. I know it. It was just God. Like, dude, they were walking. So we were lined up on the side of the pool,
Mm-hmm.
and what it was called is like water survival. How to the backstory on it is how to survive if you were ever stranded or in a river or had to save someone out of a pool or a baby or something, like not a pool, but like a, because we work off road a lot, so we got
Yeah.
creeks and rivers and stuff that we deal with all the time. So, but that was what it was for, water survival, and it was people in there were terrified, but they would walk behind you. We lined up on the side and just push you in. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know how I made it through that. But again, once I conquered one, I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is over. Come on with the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So once it's behind you, you move on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah,
So it was divine intervention. God had you kind of in those places,
he
and
had me through that whole
yeah.
process. the whole process. Like when I came out of there, dude, I was more. Um, it changed me spiritually, mentally, and physically, emotionally. Like,
Hmm.
dude, I called on God so much, and I think that's why He put me there. Like, He took me out of one situation I was in and brought me to that one, just for that reason to get closer to Him, get closer to my family, get closer to my friends, myself. I found myself in there. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot. Like, you got your friends and your guys in there, guys and girls who you can talk to in there, but man, if you ain't got God, you weren't making it through there because there was a lot
Mm.
of people who fell by the wayside, and it was a few of us that just trickled on through. I ain't gonna say trickle because we made it,
Right.
that we pushed through, So
Wow.
yeah,
And then I got to say this. I mean, for you to push through a an ankle,
it was a
uh,
calf.
calf, excuse me,
I
calf.
tore both my calves, and then the my asthma history. I have like chronic asthma.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why I like, I get emotional just talking about it, just giving all that glory to God because, man, it's so much that just my asthma alone could have kept me from doing.
Mm.
Because I was always looking, there go that sickly kid, there go that sickly skinny guy. And, man, I wasn't, some of that was motivation.
Mm-hmm.
People, hearing chatter,
Mm-hmm.
there we go with the
Mm-hmm.
motivation. It gave me
Mm-hmm.
that to kick it into that next gear. I'm like, okay, I'll show them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like they say, they was laughing at me. Now they asking me how I did it,
Exactly.
So,
They
but
sure do.
and you know what? Discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow. And I remember the asthma that you have had. I mean, I figured that just with you being, a trainer and just being in good health, like it just kind of dissipated. I didn't think that it was something that you even had to deal with anymore.
yeah, no, I still deal with it. I'm learning to deal with it because, of course, when I was young, I didn't want people to know that because when you wearing glasses, got asthma, you get picked on
Yeah.
for doing, well, not doing that, but having those
Yeah.
conditions and things like that. And then I didn't want people to I didn't want people to feel sorry for me.
Right.
I've never been that type where I want you to feel sorry for me just because I got this or I have this condition. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I hid it a lot and just tried my best to push through whatever I could. And of course, I
Mm-hmm.
had failures. I failed, but like I told you, I always come back.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I fail at something, that's not gonna stop me. I
Mm-hmm.
just say that let's okay, this is a detour right now.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go another path. We'll come back and address it later. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And I'm
but
glad I'm glad you brought that up because, I always like to get a sense of how people kind of deal with failures and disappointments. So, how have you used motivation or discipline to rectify one of those failures or disappointments that you faced?
uh, I would say I've used more motivation when it
Okay.
comes to a failure.
Okay.
Yeah, I use more motivation when it comes to failure. Um, because man, it's like life sometimes,
Hmm. Life
even
be lifing.
in a right, even in the workplace, outside of
Mhm.
work, that has been promotions that I didn't get that I thought that I should have gotten.
Absolutely.
Um, and it just wasn't my time.
Mhm.
I didn't let that stop me. It just
Mhm.
made me work harder. Because
Mhm.
of course we all know that we put in work to achieve another level, whether it be outside or at work. And we know that sometimes we deserve positions more than others. But some people, they were like, well, you know what? I'm gonna throw my hands up. I'm just not gonna do no work.
Mhm.
But you can't have that mentality because now that could be a test. Now they're looking at you like, oh, he just shut down when he didn't get this position. So the next time it comes up, we overlooking you altogether.
Mhm.
When you stay strong in a fight, I love that term, stay in the fight. You know, no matter what you do in life, when you fail, stay in the fight.
Mhm.
Because in the long run, if it's for you, it's gonna happen. You let failures motivate you. We ain't gonna have our way all the time. We didn't grow up with silver spoons in our mouths and parents getting us everything we wanted. But once we got to this level now where we can afford it, we might try to shower our kids with the things that they didn't want, or shower ourselves with the things that we couldn't get.
Mhm.
You know, so it's the same concept, man. Just stay in the fight. You'll, if that's what you truly want to do,
Mhm.
sometime in your life, at some point, you go get it.
Mhm.
And I never force anything, like, cause, and there's no easy way out, because if you think about it, everything that you've gotten easy has always turned out to be crap.
Everything. Yeah.
So you know how people, man, I hit this lick, man. I'm finna get it, man. But it's always turned out to be, man, what is this?
Right.
Crap. So anything you work hard for,
Yep. It
you
has
go, I
long
mean,
lasting
it's always
power.
worth having. So,
It sure is.
you know,
It certainly is. And I thank you for bringing that up. Just the fact that using motivation as a source to get over those failures and disappointments, because a lot of people can take those failures and disappointments and let it, weigh them down, and they
right.
feel bad about it. They can't get out of the disappointment. They can't get out of the mindset of not getting what they wanted.
Mhm.
But I love the fact that, you can use a motivation, or you can use motivation in general to dig yourself out of that and just kind of push yourself forth for whatever else is going to come next and
Right.
not get bogged down by it. So you've talked about some challenges that you face, in particular with the Trooper Academy and things of that nature.
Mhm.
And I would love for you to expound on more of those if you haven't. But as it relates to bodybuilding as well, what are some challenges that you've witnessed kind of being in those two spaces, either law enforcement or in the bodybuilding world?
Bodybuilding is full of challenges, man, full of failures. I mean, because I tried, man, it took me, what I say, I started in 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That's 5 years that I was busting my butt. And getting a pro card is not easy. You know what I'm saying? You're going up against people from all over the country, all over the world, uh, for a number one spot. All over the world for a number one spot. Think about that. You
Wow.
going against people all over the world for a number one spot. So motivation, discipline, failures, triumphs, all that came into play, man. And I never beat myself up over it, because I know if I get 100%, we call them preps, 100% of my prep, that's where you know, I go into grind mode where I'm eating my meals every 3 hours, hitting the gym at a certain time of day, getting a certain amount of water in. That's what's called prep.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that prep, yeah, I'm groggy, I'm irritated. Discipline, that's where I was talking about
Absolutely.
sacrifice.
Right.
Um, and you bust your butt for 16, 17 weeks trying to achieve this body that you think is worth presenting to get a number one spot, and you don't even make top 20.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean that could be devastating to some people, but like again, I think me personally, I've been through so much in my life that, man, it ain't too much that's gonna knock me down. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, you like is it you know my history, but it's like it ain't too much that's gonna knock me down. You know, you gotta hit me pretty hard to knock me off my feet. So things like that, uh just going on year after year, changing things up, trying to implement that, take this out. Hey, let's see if this works. Let's see if that
Mm.
works. But it's just so much that plays a part. We still talking about bodybuilding now, in trying to get that number one spot. So it was a lot of failures, man. It times where you gotta hit a certain mark. at a certain time. And sometimes it's difficult. You have injuries that set you back. But man, you just gotta, like I say, stay in the fight, keep pushing forward.
So I know this is just me being curious. I know that pro card is a huge deal. I mean, for you to say it in that context, I never thought about like you're trying to get a number one spot against people all over the world.
Right, right.
So like for us just kind of, wanting to know more about that, like how does one get that pro card? Like what did you have to do in order to be given that? Because I know that's a huge deal.
You just gotta show up and look better than the next guy that day.
Wow.
That's it, because you got all these bodies
Mm-hmm.
that potentially look just alike. It could be you can win by 1 point. You can be off by 1 point. And you got all these bodies that's on stage that look the exact same. And you just gotta the judge have to find one flaw in somebody to say that you're the winner. So I mean that's just the gist of the hard work that we have to put in that, because and then it's so subjective, man. It's you can let that, if you're not strong enough, you can let things like that mess with your mind, because it can cause mental issues, it can
Mm-hmm.
cause self-esteem problems. Because man, you wouldn't think that a bodybuilder or a guy or girl who looks the way they look when they get on stage, muscle figure, everything, they suffer from like mental illness. Well, not mental illness, but depression.
Yeah.
Because that sport, it's a selfish sport. You have to
Mm-hmm.
think about self a lot. You don't have a lot of people don't know what you're going through. Uh and just being deprived of certain foods, certain water. I mean, not certain water, but deprived of certain foods and water and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, man, it messes with your mind. So one thing it did, it overtook me at one point, and I just had to realize but I was fortunate enough to catch it. It was like, oh man, this is like consuming me. I need to take a step back. And I'm gonna tell you this, that's when I got my pro card. I think I was putting bodybuilding before God, I was putting it before my family, but putting it before everything, but I was not prospering. And when I stood back and realized what I was doing, I said, you know what, God, I'm gonna let you have it. I'm gonna just go into this show. I wasn't even worried, and I got it. So, but like I was going back to like being this, we can continue how discipline falls back in a part of that. That goes back from when, of course, my grandmother kept me in the church growing up, praying, reading the Bible, doing all that. Yeah, I did my heathen thing when I was younger, but you know, having that discipline to know you can always go back to God and pray for what you want, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
I'm so glad that you talked about just that mental health aspect of it because I can only imagine the work that you all put forth on it on a day-to-day basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, yearly basis, you know, the diets, the lack of sleep maybe that you get because you're in the
yep,
gym and just all the things that you sacrifice. And then to have somebody to tell you that you didn't get it from
yep,
one thing that they saw, that is definitely something that would affect your mind and your mentality. Um, but I'm glad that when you checked yourself and saw what it was doing to you, you let God just kind of take you back and he stepped in
yep.
to show you what he's able to do when you trust him and you give it to him
All right.
in that same regard. That's amazing, man. That is very amazing. Have you ever thought about how um severe that is for other bodybuilders? Like
Yeah,
how
I have, man. It's been bodybuilders who committed suicide.
mm-hmm,
It's been bodybuilders who just their mental is not there anymore, man. It sends you in like depression modes. You have to
mm-hmm,
be up, down all the time, and it's just.
mm-hmm,
But I mean, some have gone broke. Some have lost their families. It's a taxing sport on the body.
mm-hmm.
Like
And all and like the whole body. Right. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
just the physical,
yeah. Not that everything.
everything. Because I mean, I feel like, and I've said this in some other instances, like if your mind is not sharp, if your mental health is not strong, then
Yeah,
everything else is going to be depleted. So
yeah. And
that's
it was times where, of course, I had the a pretty good relationship with my supervisors at work, where they knew when I was getting ready for a show that
hmm
my mental and would not be fully there. So they would
hmm
let me take off and to get ready for the show because again, being on the streets and being a police officer, you have to have a clear mind to make these life changing decisions.
hmm
So I knew I needed to step back until I got my stuff together to where I was able to, fully focus on this show and come back to work. So,
hmm So both of your career paths have been just riddled with discipline and motivation, using it, of course, accordingly, whenever it's seen to be fit. What would you say has been your mission, William Wade's mission, in anything that you've been a part of, whether it is law enforcement, whether it's being a trainer, whether it's been a bodybuilder? What has been your mission through it all?
the mission is to always has been to like help others, to inspire others. Um, I don't do this well, I do it for myself, but like how when you were telling me before, I'm too modest. I don't promote myself like I should. I do that because I'm not gonna necessarily say I dumb myself down for others, but you know, when I set a goal or something I'm trying to achieve, I want others to look, hey, if Will can do it, I can do it. You know what I'm saying? With people who know my background, know my history of where I came from, and I can achieve this. That's my goal. It's like even when I was training people, I didn't do it for money. People
Mhm,
always tell me, "Man, you undercharging." No, I'm not. My joy came from seeing that person that I trained transform, being happy about themselves, and losing whatever goal that they had, whether to gain weight,
mhm,
lose weight. That was my joy for them to be happy,
mhm,
and even when offers, my sole goal is not to go out here and make someone's day miserable. My goal is to save lives.
mhm,
People think we write tickets to because we mean no, we prevent people from speeding and crashing. So my whole goal for everything I do is to help people.
mhm. And I think you just kind of shared some of those things that keep you in the field. I was going to ask you what are some of the things that you enjoy about it, but I think you just kind of shared it, and just
Yeah.
that you like to see other people win. You like to
Right.
see other people achieve their goals, and to be a part of that. To be
Right.
their accountability partner, seeing them through what they are accomplishing or trying to accomplish. Sometimes they don't think they can accomplish it, and they do. That's a great thing, and of course, saving lives as a law enforcement officer, as you've been doing, that is huge, and we do need that. So I appreciate you for taking that cause.
Right.
Um, what advice would you give to anybody going or wanting to go into law enforcement, bodybuilding, being a trainer? What type of advice would you give somebody?
Um, for law enforcement, I would say don't come what you see on TV with all the fast cars, flashing lights, shooting, fighting. Don't come into this career, not job, this career, thinking that's what you're going to do. Your main goal as law enforcement is to preserve property and save lives. I mean, all that's going to come, but try to de escalate situations. Like, everybody don't need to be cursed out.
Mhm.
Everybody don't need to be talked to bad or roughed up. I've gotten out of a lot of situations just by using this mouthpiece, calming people down. So I would say come in with a positive attitude, um, come in ready, come in
Mhm.
focused,
Mhm.
uh, because it's not for the weak at heart. You go see a lot of stuff. You got to be strong willed to have this job. As far as bodybuilding, you're gonna have your ups and your downs. It's not gonna come overnight. We got so many people out here now that want to be pros, and "Well, I'm gonna get my pro card next year." Yeah, that's good. That's great. Those are great ambitions to have for yourself, but don't freak out when it doesn't happen. You
Mhm.
know, everybody wants a quick fix, and it's not. So take your time. It's not a What is it? How you say it's not a race. It's a marathon. Is
Right.
that how it goes? Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, just slow pace.
Mhm.
Slow pace doing this thing, man, because you want longevity. You want no injuries, uh, career-ending injuries. Just pace yourself. Stop wanting that quick fix. And what was the other one you asked me about? It was law enforcement, bodybuilding, whatever.
As a
Uh,
trainer, as you know,
a
as a
trainer.
trainer.
Man, training, you got to be passionate about it.
Mhm.
Don't do it for the money.
Right.
Don't do it for. I mean, it's you can make great money in it, but that wasn't my only job, so it didn't bother me. But don't do it for the money. Uh, Quality over quantity.
Mm.
When I say that, just don't take everybody on because everybody is not wanting to be trained, if that makes sense. You
Mhm.
get where I'm going? Some people have uh other reasons for wanting to be trained. So you gotta decipher that, go ahead and nip that in the bud. Just be passionate about it, man. That's it.
So I know this is, like I said, an age-old discussion. You know, this discipline versus motivation versus discipline. But as you look at your life and even just this conversation that we've had, what's number one and what's number two? Discipline or motivation?
Discipline, number one. Discipline is number one. Look, if I'm in six or under, I'm good. I can get across there, but
Right.
anything over, I'll sink. you
I
know,
I'm
so
I just know I know how that is for you. So if you were able to do that, then you did some huge things and you had
oh
an
yeah,
amount of discipline that got you through that. Well, and we're gonna say God did it,
yeah,
because give
yeah.
him, the glory in that. One word that affirms who you are.
Tenacious.
Mm,
Like tenacious.
tenacious.
Yeah.
What made you say tenacious?
Because just the whole like the turtle never gave up.
Mm-hmm.
In the story of the tortoise versus
Mm-hmm.
the hare would speed down the road, take breaks, stop, eat, and what that turtle do just kept going, kept going. He didn't let anything get in his way, no roadblocks, anything. He kept pushing for. He had his eye on the finish line, his eye on the prize, and he just marched toward that.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what got in his way, it made the turtle, but he kept going.
That's right. That's right. Brother William Wade, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. I think that everybody who is listening to this got a clear understanding of, your perspective of the discussion of discipline versus motivation, and we were able to see it woven throughout your entire journey. So thank you so very much for sharing that with us tonight. And I said this to Johnny, I said this to DJ Vision and Joe, that if I haven't said it before, I want to say it now on this platform. And I'm saying it for everybody to hear. I am extremely proud of you and what you have accomplished. And just seeing you flourish in your capacity from, in being in law enforcement, achieving those goals that you've wanted in it, and of course, in the bodybuilding capacity, seeing you transform as you have. To just see you just be dedicated and just to be doing the things that you want to do, I couldn't be more proud of you. And I thank you so very much for sharing your journey with us here tonight. So thank you. I
Hey, thank
appreciate you.
you too. All right, I'm proud of you too, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, if people want to follow you on social media or anything like that, how can people do that?
Um, on Instagram, I think I'm Will underscore Wade underscore IFBB Pro.
Okay.
And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay. Great. 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 One last thing we got to do before we wrap it up. I like to end the show with just a moment of gratitude. So, if you could think of one thing that you're grateful for today, what would that be?
Life.
Hmm.
Life.
Life is amazing. It's much
Yeah,
more amazing above ground, isn't it?
it is. And man, it's like we we take it for granted so many
Mhm.
times. We don't think that it could be gone like in the next second. So
Mhm.
I'm just thankful for that, thankful for life. And when I say life, that's mine and all those who surround me, who I love and care for, and the same for me. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. I would say today I'm grateful for uh, just second chances because
Yeah.
I think we all kind of make mistakes and we all kind of fall occasionally, but we get those
Yeah.
second chances, and so I'm grateful for that as well. My goal one day, and I said this with other shows, my goal is to have all of our guys on one show. I don't know how that's going to be, William. I'll be honest with you. But we'll have to go through some strict parameters, some strict
Right.
conversation before we get on all together. But I would love to have that, and so I'm so glad again that you were able to be on this platform. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please come back again next week as we accomplish and tackle another great topic. And hopefully you were able, I'm sure you were able to get something from brother Wade's story and journey tonight. So thank you again for being on. You all have a great evening. Have a great weekend.